Welcome back to beautiful New York City. Dan Leach here with you at Benzinga's Fintech FODA conference. Having a great time and very excited to bring you my next guest. It is the managing director of EisnerAmper, Chris Brodersen. Great to see you.
Thanks, Dan. Great to see you.
These events are always a lot of fun, and we're at a very fascinating and I'll also say interesting time in the industry right now, aren't we?
Yeah, you can say that again, especially with the upcoming change in the administration. A lot of people are expecting some significant change, and I hope they're not disappointed.
Sure. Let's talk about what you guys have been able to do in so many different ways, and also what maybe clients wished you could have done for them a long time ago, but they needed to learn their lesson, I guess.
Well, like any other new industry, people start out as startups, and then they grow along the way, and they stub their toes. But as they grow, they need to grow up. And they need to become more compliant. And that's both from a regulatory perspective as well as a reporting perspective around tax and accounting and all that boring stuff that nobody wants to think about until they discover that they need those functions, and they spend a lot of time and money trying to fix what could have been fixed much easier on the front end.
What do you think, so obviously we know that people are grow fast and don't want to, not that they don't care about compliance, but they're worried about having the revenue and meeting their targets.
Of course.
What do you think the message needs to be, obviously from your perspective, what you guys, the great work you guys do at EisnerAmper as well, to emerging companies that, listen, it's okay to shoot for the stars, but you got to be grounded in reality, right?
Well, there's that piece of it, but I also think that not only in reality, but I think you have to look at your growth plan and you need to reassess it on a regular basis because business models change. Look at Amazon. They started out, selling books. Right? And now look where they are today. So I think that there's that piece of it. I also think that as a startup, you don't necessarily need to go crazy with this stuff, but you need to understand where you need to be when you get to a certain size. That's why one of the things that we do pretty well is we do outsourced CFO services for startups.
When it comes to where you see what you guys are doing at EisnerAmper and also how that kind of correlates with where the industry is going, let's say a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what's the vision you see right now?
So the vision that I see is that, I think we're going to see the big guys really kind of start to pull away. I think you'll finally start to see some of the zombie projects begin to fail and fade away. And that's actually a healthy thing for just like the internet, right? I think we're going to see that. I'm hopeful that we're going to start to see at least some regulatory engagement so that the industry has some answers and that people can operate in the United States with some clarity. Because as you and I both know, regulation through enforcement is no way to regulate. The courts have a tendency to contradict one another and overturn one another. So even if you get a favorable ruling, how do you know how long it's going to last?
Now, I know you bring a wealth of experience. It goes back to a lot of different jobs you've had, including one that you thought kind of lasted 25 years too long.
That's right. I spent about 25 years in capital markets on the sell side, front office facing. But as we talked about earlier, it was like standing on a melting ice cube. Commissions have gone to zero.
But don't you think that's why I'm so impressed with where you've come from and where you're going, that it led you to where you need to be right now?
Yes, right. So that experience allowed me to understand how this technology, blockchain technology, is going to fundamentally alter first financial services and then a lot of other businesses.
Right.
Crypto is here. It's here to stay. It has its place. But as I've said for years, I think the larger opportunity is one, tokenization of real world assets, and two, blockchain technology fundamentally altering the middle and back office functions of many of these financial institutions.
I just want to drive this point home before I let you go. It's not that we're trying to scold these companies out there, but what's the key for them to understand? Obviously, what you guys do incredibly well at EisnerAmper, but what's important for a company that's trying to become something special? You brought up Amazon. Obviously, everyone loves to be Amazon, but whether they're shooting for that kind of thing or whatever it is, what's important to know about how to grow?
I think the thing to understand is that just because it's crypto or DeFi doesn't mean that there are no rules, number one. You need strong compliance programs and people around that. You need to have proper audits, especially for fundraising and licensing. And essentially, you need to look like a non-crypto company, right? from the back office perspective. You really do. I mean, if I'm an investor, I'm not going to, like a large VC, I'm not going to give somebody a bunch of money unless I have some clarity around the risks and controls and the management and all those fundamentals that people need to think about.
Chris Brodersen, the managing director of EisnerAmper. It was a true pleasure sitting down with you. Great discussion. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.